Alright, so welcome back. In this video, we're gonna be talking about order blocks, breakers, and source. All right. So an uptrend is basically defined as higher highs and higher lows, right? So say that's our uptrend. Okay. Well, I'm gonna clear it up for you. Got an uptrend. All right, uptrend, right? Now our order blocks in a bullish move when we going up, right? Uptrend. Our order block would be the last bearish candle before the higher high. Okay, last bearish candle before the higher high. All right. So price gave us a high. It pulled back. The last bearish candle before it created another higher high will be our order block. What we expect price to do is we expect price to travel back down, retest the order block, and to continue the upwards move. Okay. Now on down on the retest, it creates another order block before it creates another higher high. So this is another order block. After this higher high, we expect price to come right back down to the order block, retest, and continue to move up. All right. Now this also created another order block. So our next move, waiting for price to come down, retest the order block, and to continue up. All right. Now if we were coming down on a downtrend, you got lower highs and lower lows. Your order block would be the last bullish candle before your lower low. So your order block will come in somewhere around here, right before it gives you your lower low. What we expect price to do is we expect price, I'm gonna change the color. What we expect price to do, we expect price to pull back, retest the order block, and sell off. This move right here created another order block, the last bullish candle before it created another lower low. After that lower low, we expect price to pull back, retest his order block, and drop. All right, so those are basically order blocks. It's gonna be your last going up is gonna be your last bearish candle before the higher high, and going down is gonna be your last bullish candle before the lower low. All right, you want to take the body of the candle plus the wicks, and then the wicks to the right. And I'm gonna show you what that looks like once we get into the chart. All right, so that's your order blocks. Now your breaker, right? So now say you're going up, you got a higher high, that higher high, right? Now, based off the order blocks, we expect price to come back down, retest the order block, and keep going, right? They create another order block. We expect price to come back down and keep going. Create another order block, right? And we want to keep riding this wave until they reverse. Okay. So, but when do we know they're getting ready to reverse? That's when the breaker happens. Okay. So, and our order flow, price will respect all order blocks, not breaking them. Right? They'll come down, retest them, and continue to trend. Once you get a breaker, you'll see price, instead of continuing to trend up, it will come down and it will break the order block. All right. So to the left, you got a high, pull back. The last bearish candle before the higher high created an order block right here. Price came down, retested the order block, did not break it, respected it, got out of there, created another order block. Right? Got out of there, pulled back, created another order block. So our move off of this last order block is a pullback to the order block with a rise, right? We're looking for a pullback to the order block and rise. We don't get that. We get a pullback and a close underneath. Okay? So when this happens right here and price close underneath the order block, this order block now becomes your breaker. So now this is your breaker. Why? Because price just broke out of the order block going down. Okay? If we are going in the opposite direction, right? So let's go back to the red. Say we're trending down, right? We got a high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, right? Now we got an order block somewhere in here. We expect price to come up, retest the order block, and drop. We're gonna have an order block somewhere in here. We expect price to come up here, retest the order block, and drop. Got an order block in here. We expect price to go up to the order block, retest, drop. And here you got another order block, right? Now our next move, we expect price to go up to this order block, retest, and drop, right? But what happens when they go up and instead of retesting, they break and close, right? This order block right here becomes our breaker. This is our new breaker, okay? So uptrend, you have the flow of prices going up in the bullish direction. You had a high, a last bearish candle before your higher high, gives you your order block. It pulled back, retested the order block for the continuation, gave you another order block, pulled back to the order block, retest for the continuation, gave you another order block, pulled back and broke the low of the order block, making this a breaker, changing the color from red to yellow. All right. Coming down, we got a high, a low, lower high, lower low. So we have the last bullish candle before our lower low that give us our order block. We expect price to come back, retest our order block, and sell off. That created another order block in this pullback, the last bullish candle before the lower low was created. We expect price to come back, retest the order block, and sell off, right? In this move, it created another order block, the last bullish candle before the lower low was created, right? We expect price to come back, retest this order block, and sell off. This created another order block. We expect price to come back up here, retest, and sell off. But they don't. They come back up and break it. So this becomes our breaker. Okay? So you got an order block, you got a breaker, and now you have the source. Okay? So now your source would be up in here. Source would be up in here. Your source is the candle responsible for the peak, the highest high or the lowest low, right? So you would take the whole body of that candle, along including the wicks, now it become your source. So you have your order block. On the uptrend, your order block, the last bearish candle before your higher high, last bearish candle before your higher high, last bearish candle before your higher high. Price broke the last order block, making this order block your breaker. Your source will be your the candle responsible for creating the highest high of this trend. So you have your order block, your breaker, and your source. Going down, you have your order block, your breaker because they broke price above, and your source, the candle responsible for creating the lowest low. All right. So now let's clear all this up. So now in the uptrend, you got a high, low, higher, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. It broke, and it started coming back down, right? So in this example, we got our last bearish candle before our higher high. We expect price to come down here, retest the order block, and rise. We have our last bearish candle before our new higher high. We expect price to come down here, retest, and continue. We have our last bearish candle. Our last bearish candle before our higher high, making this an order block, right? We expect the price to come back here and continue, right? But it don't, it comes down and it breaks. So now this is our breaker. This becomes our breaker, all right? Because price came down here and it closed underneath this order block, okay? So once we get this move down, we have our source, which is up in here, the last candle responsible for the highest high. That's our source. Now, from this area right here, once price close, our next play is a retest to the breaker or retest to the source, drop. So we looking for price to come to the source or go to the breaker, go to the source or go to the breaker and sell off. Either or. We don't know if it's gonna go to the source. We don't know if it's gonna go to the we don't know if it's gonna go to the source. We don't know if it's gonna go to the breaker. Right? We just sit and we wait because it'll be confirmed when it's time to get into the trade with the TDI and added confirmation with the M's and W's. All right. So after you get your breaker and this box turn yellow and you create your source, your next move is the pullback to the breaker or the pullback to the source, sell off. Right? This move, pullback, drop, right? It will create another order block. We expect the retest, drop. Okay? This move, hold on, retest, drop, right? Now this move will create another order block, right? We expect a retest to the order block, drop. This move will create another order block. We expect a retest, drop, but it doesn't retest. It keeps going, right? So now what happens is our order block becomes our breaker. This becomes our breaker, right? The candle responsible for creating a lowest low is our source, right? Our next play is a pullback to the source or a pullback to the breaker rise. So we either looking for price to come here, rise, or price to come here with a rise, right? Say price comes back to the breaker with a rise. You're gonna take your last bearish candle that creates an order block. Our next play is the pullback to the order block retest, rise. It created another order block. Our next play is a pullback to the order block, rise. It creates another order block. Our next play is a pullback to the order block, rise. It creates another order block, right? Our next play is the pullback to the order block rise. However, it doesn't pull back and rise, it pulls back and breaks the order block, right? It makes this order block our breaker. This is our breaker. The candle that's responsible for our highest high is our source. After we get our breaker and our source, our next move is a retest of the source drop or the retest of the breaker drop. Okay? So starting all over, we got a higher highs, order block, retest to order block rise, create another order block, retest to order block rise, create another order block. Instead of retesting the order block, it broke the order block, making this our breaker, making the highest candle responsible for a high our source. We expect price to come back and either retest the source or retest the breaker and drop. On that move, it creates another order block, right? It creates order block going down. Our next move is a retest to this order block, sell off. This push up creates another order block. The last bullish candle before the lower low was created will be the order block. Our next move is to retest to this order block, sell off, right? It creates a new lower low. Our last bullish candle before this lower low creates a new order block, right? We expect price to come retest the order block and drop, but instead of doing that, it broke the order block, making this our breaker. The lowest, the candle responsible for the lowest low becomes our source. We expect price after this point to retest the source or to retest the breaker and rise. It retest the source, it retest the breaker, and it got out of there. This move back, we take the last bearish candle before the higher high was created and give us our new order block. We expect price from this point to come back to this order block and a rise. Oops. We expect price to come back to this order block and a rise. This pullback, the last bearish candle before it created this higher high, it gives us another order block, right? After this higher high was created, we expect price to come back to this order block, retest, and rise. That pullback, we take the last bearish candle before this higher high was created. We expect price to come back to the order block and rise. It does that. The last bearish candle before this higher high was created is our new order block, right? We expect price to come here and rise, right? But instead of doing that, it breaks, turning our order block into our breaker. The candle responsible for giving us our highest high is now our source. After this breaker, our next move is a retest to the source, drop, or a retest to the breaker, drop. All right, that's your order block, breaker, and your source. So now we're gonna go into the charts. And I'm gonna show you what this looked like on the charts. So we're gonna go to, let's go to UCAT. All right, UCAT. I'm sorry, I was responding to a text. All right, we're gonna delete these lines. So doing your order blocks, you want to start from your 4-hour time frame. You're gonna start your order blocks from your 4-hour time frame. Scroll all the way back. Take them trend lines off. All right. So we're gonna start right here. So from what I said before, going up, we're gonna take our last bearish candle before the higher high was created. Correct? Correct. So what we do is we see here. We're gonna start right here. Right? Start right here. Make this red. Now we got our order block, right? This is the last, let me zoom in. This is the last bearish candle, right? Before the higher high was created. What we expect price to do is we expect price to come down, retest the order block and rise. Right? So we got another order block right here. The last bearish candle before the higher high was created, right? Last bearish candle before the higher high was created. So this is what it's looking like, right? Order block, last bearish candle before the higher high was created. Another order block, last bearish candle before the higher high was created, right? Now, we didn't get our retest. However, we still create our order blocks. See that? Okay. So now, this right here, this candle right here, this wick, right? So you got a push above this wick. So now we got our order block, got an order block right here, right? Got above this order block. After the break of this high, we expect price to come back down, retest, and continue up. Okay? But what happens? Price comes down and it closes, breaking the order block, making this our breaker, right? This candle right here will be our source because this candle is responsible for creating the highest high, all right? So we had our old order block, it broke. This candle right here broke the order block, making this our source and making this our breaker. Our next move is a pullback till the breaker or the source sell off, right? What happened? Price broke out of the order block, right? Making this the breaker and went right to the previous order block and rejected it and came right back into the breaker, right? Rejected the breaker and dropped right to the order block before that, rejected it and came right back to retest the breaker before selling off. You see that? You see how they respect these order blocks? So you have your order block, your last bearish candle before your higher high, last bearish candle before your higher high, last bearish candle before your higher high, right? We expecting price to come pull back, retest, get out of there. Retest, get out of there, right? It broke the order block, it retest the previous order block and pull right back to the breaker, right? Got out of the breaker, went right back to the order block before that, rejected it, and pulled right back to the breaker for another retest, right? And sold off. So now we're gonna delete these, right? Now we coming down. So we got our last bullish candle before our lower low. For our lower low, we got our last bullish candle before our lower low. Price came back, retest the order block, right? Sold off. We got our last bullish candle. This right here before our lower low, right? We expecting price to come back, retest and sell off. It didn't pull all the way back, but it's respecting the order block and staying within the flow. Price made a lower low, our last bullish candle before the lower low was created. We expecting price to come back, retest the order block, sell off. You see it kind of wicked the 13 at the bottom of the order block, sold off. It pulled back right into the order block, and it sent wicks to the order block that was sitting above. But notice how it closed right inside of the order block, not breaking it. So it's staying within this order flow. We're in a bearish order flow and it's respecting these order blocks, right? So our next order block, we got this low right here. So our next order block would be right here. And the reason why I put this horizontal line horizontal line out is because the order block, it would be the last bullish candle before your lower low, right? Now, if this is our lowest low, wait, I lied. Right, this is our lowest low, right? We don't get another lower low until right here, which will make this our order block. That makes sense? So we over here, and we see how price, it gave you a lower low. Price gave you a lower low. Our next move is a retest to the order block, sell off, right? But instead of doing that, they broke it. So now this becomes our breaker, right? This candle right here broke our order block. So now this becomes our breaker. The candle that's responsible for the lowest low is this candle right here. This becomes our source. Right? Our next move is a retest to the source or the breaker rise. Right? Now check this out. We drag this all the way over, right? You got your source and you got your breaker. You're looking for the retest to the breaker or the source rise. Come down, almost retest the breaker, got up out of there, right? Now from this, we have another order block. Right here we have another order block, right? The last bearish candle before the higher high was created. However, we still expecting price to come back down to retest our breaker and our source. So when we get a break, out of this, me personally, I won't turn this yellow into our breaker. Why? Because it hasn't retested our breaker or our source yet. So this break out of this order block could just be the retest of the breaker or the source, if that makes sense. All right. So I would ignore this because this is in line with our pullback to the breaker, pullback to the source rise for the continuation. All right. We don't get another one into right here. Why? Why aren't these order blocks? This one right here, this one right here, and this one right here. Why? Is because this high was created. So it's the last bearish candle before the higher high. All right. This was the last candle. You got a bullish candle, but it did not break this high. This candle did not break this high. This candle did not break this high. Right. This was the last bearish candle before this candle broke this high. So this is our order block. I'm expecting price to come down, retest the order block, and get up out of there. Right. What happened was price came down and it broke the order block. Right. With this candle right here, making this our breaker. Making this candle right here our source. Our next move out of here, after this candle, our next move is the retest to the breaker or the source, drop. What happens? You get a retest, drop, it comes back, retest again, and then drop, right? Where did it drop to? It dropped right to our source. So off of this breaker source, we get a retest finally to our first breaker and source, right? Now check this out. You got, where is that? Where is that? Got an order block right here. Well, we count on Wix. We do this order block right here. This would be our order block right here. Because this right here engulfed all of this, right? So this low came off of this order block right here. Okay? We expecting price to do what? Pull back, retest the order block. Turn this red. Retest the order block and then drop, right? You get a small retest, not all the way back up there, but it respected, and it dropped right to our source. All right. So now we got our source. You got the last bullish candle, right? Before our lower low. This green candle right here, right? And you have the source, which would be right here. The source and the breaker can overlap each other if that's the way it falls in. This is the source. This candle right here, the wick and the body, and this green candle right here. This is your order block. This is your source. Well, your order block just turned to your breaker because it broke out. Now you got your breaker, your source. This candle broke the order block, making this your breaker and making this candle your source, right? Our next move is the pullback to the breaker and source. Now check this out. You got a breaker and a source inside of a source. That's very strong. You understand? So when price gets inside of this source and retests the source, another breaker and another source, right? That's a strong confirmation for me to take that for a buy. You understand? So you got a breaker right here. Our next move is a pullback retest, get up out of there, right? Now it shoots up, right? Giving you another order block right here. It gave you another order block right here, right? So our next move is what? Pull back to the order block, rise, right? We get that, right? Off the rise, it breaks this order block, but where did it go? It goes right back to our source and to our breaker. This is the first pullback to the source or to the breaker from our original order block from down here. It went up, it finally came all the way back down. It took a whole week, right? So like a whole week and a day or something like that. They come back and give us our retest to our breaker and our source. Once it hit price off of this breaker and source right here, we could have brought it and rolled it up. All right. So let's go to a different pair. Let's go to GBP. All right. So we on our 4 hour. We got. You want to start right here. Start right here, right? So we're gonna take our last bullish candle, right? Before the move down, lower low, right? Price breaks that right here, making this our breaker. and making this right here our source. What's the next move? We looking for price to pull back to the source or pull back to the breaker and continue the trend going up. It broke right here, pulls back to the source, rejects the source, and gonna continue up, right? We got an order block right here. This move broke the order block, broke out of the right. So it broke out. We expecting a pullback, continuation. Broke out broke the high right here. We expecting them to pull back to the order block and then continuation. It does that. We get another order block right here. We expecting them to pull back to the order block and then continuate. All right. They do that, but then they break it right here. So now this order block becomes what? Our breaker. Right? We could have brought price right here. Could have brought price right here. We could have brought price right here. Could have brought price right here. Right? We could have even brought price right here for a couple of pips. Anything that rejected this area would have been a valid buy just by using this theory alone. Okay. Then what happens is it breaks the order block, making our order block our breaker. Where's our source? The candle that's responsible for giving us our highest high. Turns that blue. What's the next move? Off the break, we looking for a retest of the breaker or the source. Drop. We get a retest of our source, and then it drops. Right? So then we get an order block right here. Off of this bullish candle right here, we get an order block. We expect price to come back, retest order block and drop. Does that gave you a few pips? How many pips is that? It gave you about 103 pips. Then it broke the order block, making this our breaker. Making this our source. I'm gonna pull this all the way up. Got your breaker, you got your source, right? Now what happens? Price comes back, retests the breaker, and rises. It pulls back all the way to the source of the last order block, right? From way over here, last breaker and source, pulls all the way back to the source and rises. All right. So you can see how price likes to respect order blocks during these cash flows. So order flows, I mean. So if you have a bullish order flow and price is going up, price will respect these order blocks going up, bouncing, pulling back, and rejecting them for the continuation. On a bearish order flow, you'll see price pulling back, rejecting the order blocks, and selling off. All right. When the order block is broken, it becomes your breaker. And now you're looking for price to pull back to retest the order block. I mean, not the order block, retest the breaker or the source. All right. Once the order block is broken, it's called LSB, last step broken. All right. LSB plus retest is the break out of the order block, retest to the breaker or source for the continuation. That's one of the strongest, safest trades you can take on Forex. LSB plus retest. Right? Now, if you was to trade something like this, your stop loss will go below the low of your breaker or your source. All right. Now, this is just how we mark up the 4 hour. All right. The next video I'm going to talk about how we go down to the 15-minute time frame and how we look for entries. All right. So, takeaways from this video: we mark our order blocks from our higher time frames. You can either go to the weekly or the daily and start up there and start marking them down. I start marking mine up from the 4 hour, but you don't really want to start on a time frame lower than that. All right. So I start my order blocks on my 4 hour, and then I go down to my 15-minute, and I wait for price to pull back to the order block so I can see the rejections for my entries. So in this situation right here, I marked this order block up on my 4 hour time frame. Right. It broke right here. Once it breaks, I'm going down to my 15-minute time frame so I can catch an entry so I can buy it, because after it breaks out and this becomes my breaker and this becomes my source, once it comes back in, my breaker or retest my source, I'm valid to take a buy. I just need to go down to my lower time frames so I can catch a precise entry. You follow me? So coincidentally, let's say we take the source, right, to the higher of the breaker, right, which is this point right here. And we use our fib. Check this out. This is our kill zone, sniper zone, stop hunt zone, right? Off the low of our source, the break of our order block, price pulled right back to our kill zone. We could have brought price right when it hit our kill zone and took it on up, right? I'm gonna talk more about the fib, the kill zone, 15-minute in our next video. I just want you guys to focus on the 4 hour and how to mark up order blocks on your 4 hour time frame. All right, the next video we're gonna talk about how to drop down to your 15-minute to catch these precise entries when price retest the order block and retest the source. All right, so I'll see y'all next video.